However, this time, Wang Lin's 3 decays and 7 tribulations came at a speed several times faster than usual. Not only was the ancient god calamity upon him, but the calamities of the ancient demon and ancient devil also descended in an instant. The 3 ancient clans' first decay consists of 2 tribulations. The second decay also involves 2 tribulations, namely the God Tribulation and the Soul Tribulation. Wang Lin's ancient god physique had already passed these 2 decays and 4 tribulations. Now, the highest tribulation of the 3 ancient clans' individual trials was arriving, the 3rd decay and 3 tribulations. But his fused ancient demon and ancient devil body had never experienced the 1st and 2nd decays, including the 4 tribulations. Therefore, at the moment of reaching the 8 stars, the 8 tribulations of the demon and devil simultaneously arrived. Wang Lin had to endure the calamities of the ancient clan one by one. The 8 demon stars in his left eye rotated, forming a vortex in his pupil. The demonic aura surged, howling and spreading from his left eye, covering his entire face, then enveloping his body. At that moment, Wang Lin no longer resembled a cultivator in the slightest. His complexion turned a bluish hue, and his expression became grim. His veins bulged all over his body, and the demonic aura swept out in all directions, emanating from him as the center. Under the overwhelming demonic energy, Wang Lin now looked like a true demon cultivator. His white hair eerily floated behind him, and within his body, loud thumping sounds rang out. His fingernails, especially those on his index fingers, began to twitch and rapidly grow, reaching a foot long. The 10 fingernails were a deep purple red, appearing extremely eerie. As the demonic aura continued to spread across his body, it gradually formed a purple-red armor. This armor was the demon armor that could be formed by the ancient demon clan once they reached 8 stars. In this full demon armor, Wang Lin sat cross-legged on the altar. The Tao ancient phantom behind him dissipated, replaced by a towering ancient demon. This ancient demon had a single horn growing from its head, its entire body greenish in hue, and its eyes gleamed with a sinister light. It hovered behind Wang Lin, also sitting cross-legged. The demon's hair twisted and danced, stretching hundreds of feet long. From a distance, it looked like ethereal smoke floating in the air. At this moment, even those familiar with Wang Lin would be momentarily stunned, unable to recognize him at a glance. Wang Lin closed his eyes and slowly began regulating his breathing, circulating the power of the ancient demon within him. At this moment, the 1st decay and 2nd tribulation of the ancient demon arrived. Like the ancient god calamity, this 1st decay and 2nd tribulation involved the bone tribulation and flesh tribulation. The tribulations erupted from Wang Lin's ancient demon body, and as soon as they appeared, the demonic aura in the starry sky became chaotic. Wang Lin remained still, but his brows furrowed tightly. His closed eyes hid all the pain within. Inside him, the bones and flesh of his ancient demon body were being struck by the demonic energy, as if they were on the verge of shattering. But this pain, for Wang Lin, was still far from unbearable. The ancient god calamity of years past was countless times more intense than this. Time gradually passed, and 5 days quickly passed. Once the 5 days were over, Wang Lin's eyes snapped open. His brow, right eye, and left eye were starless, but the 8 demon stars in his left eye spun rapidly, emitting overwhelming demonic energy. The 1st decay and 2nd tribulation of the ancient demon clan are nothing. Wang Lin's expression was calm, and at this moment, he had indeed earned the right to say these words. He had no fear of these ancient demon tribulations. After the 1st decay of the ancient demon, the 2nd tribulation surged forward, spreading through Wang Lin's soul and mind. It gradually swirled within his body, causing the demonic energy in the outside world to stir, creating massive waves. Even the ancient demon phantom behind him twisted, as if it were about to roar out in endless pain. Wang Lin raised his right hand and directly pressed it against his left eye. His expression grew twisted, and with all his mental strength, he suppressed the 2nd tribulation of the demon loss. Under this suppression, 10 days passed in the blink of an eye, and the 2nd tribulation was crushed and collapsed. After enduring the second decay and 4 tribulations in a row, Wang Lin's ancient demon aura surged, roaring through the heavens, shaking the starry sky as if a great demon were emerging. Wang Lin's twisted expression slowly calmed. He formed hand seals and placed his hands on his knees. The demon stars in his left eye gradually faded, and just as they completely vanished, the demon stars in his right eye exploded into existence. 8 demon stars appeared, and the surrounding demonic aura immediately dissipated, replaced by an overwhelming force of demonic energy. The demonic energy roared and swirled, forming a dark mist that surrounded Wang Lin. Within the mist, the vapor moved and twisted, and from a distance, one could almost hear countless tragic wails echoing in the mind. In this surging demonic energy, Wang Lin's ancient demon armor disappeared, replaced by a strange black armor. This armor contrasted sharply with his white hair, and the black and white colors were strikingly eye-catching. In the midst of the demonic energy, demonic runes began to appear on Wang Lin's face. As these runes spread across him, Wang Lin had fully transformed from a demon cultivator into a demon. The demon, a being coexisting with immortals, gods, and demons in the world, was not bound by body, soul, or cultivation. It was a will that was supreme, that viewed the world as beneath it. Wang Lin's path was similar to that of the demons, but he could never reach the true demonic level. After all, his true body was that of an ancient god. At this moment, the demon star revolved, and amidst the howling demonic aura, Wang Lin opened his eyes. A cold, merciless light flashed in them as he braced himself for the first and second calamities of the ancient demon. The calamities of the ancient demon were similar in power to those of the ancient demon, yet stronger than the ancient demon's tribulations. Among the 3 ancient clans, the ancient gods were the strongest, followed by the ancient demons, with the ancient demons being the weakest. The 3 decays and 7 tribulations followed this pattern as well. In just 7 days, Wang Lin's ancient demon body had endured the first 2 calamities and tribulations. The pain of his bones and flesh separating was still less excruciating than the ancient god tribulation from years ago. Another 13 days passed, and Wang Lin suppressed the second calamity of the ancient demon. The trial of body and soul had brought his ancient demon body to near perfection. After his ancient demon body fully overcame the second calamity and 4 tribulations, Wang Lin, in his current state, had reached a balance within the 3 ancient clans. Sitting cross-legged on the altar, the 8th star of the ancient god appeared at his brow, and without any obstruction, it erupted with a resounding force. Ancient god, 8-star ancient god. Having cultivated for over 2,000 years, Wang Lin had reached this point through countless transformations between life and death, achieving the 8-star ancient god level. He was not only an 8-star ancient god, but also an 8-star ancient demon and ancient demon. The 3 ancients merged into one, with the ancient god as the core. This was Tao Ancient. A strange gleam appeared in Wang Lin's eyes as the 24 star points on his brow and eyes simultaneously rotated. The Tao Ancient aura emanated from his body, enveloping the stars. A powerful sensation began to stir in his mind. Wang Lin clenched his fist tightly, knowing that the true calamity was about to begin. The 3rd decay of the 3 ancients, with all 3 clans coming together. The 3rd decay consisted of 3 tribulations. The 1st tribulation was the ancient vain heaven blood. The 2nd tribulation was the 3 divinities of the ancient path. As for the 3rd tribulation, it was the strongest individual tribulation of the 3 ancients. It was known as the gift of the ancient ancestor. Wang Lin knew little about the specifics of these tribulations. Though he had inherited the Tao ancient legacy, the memories from it were limited. He only knew that the last 2 tribulations of the 3rd decay, especially the final one, had to be endured at the ancient temple in the ancient kingdom on the immortal firmament continent. For any citizen of the ancient kingdom, reaching this final tribulation would be a monumental event, an occasion worthy of being called a grand celebration. Tao Ancient Yemo, years ago, had passed the final tribulation at the ancient temple in the ancient kingdom, receiving the Tao Ancient title and becoming one of the great venerables of the ancient kingdom, revered by millions. Even in the land of the Immortal Clan, this final tribulation of the ancient kingdom was held in high regard. Sitting on the altar, Wang Lin was surrounded by an increasingly powerful Tao ancient aura as he prepared for the first tribulation of the third decay. Once he passed this tribulation, he would become a true 8-star. With the combined strength of the 8-star 3 ancients, even without the support of his cultivation, Wang Lin was confident he could defeat a void profound early-stage expert. If his cultivation advanced further, and he formed the 7th origin source, integrating it with his cultivation, even a void profound mid-stage expert would not be his opponent. He could even battle a void profound late-stage expert. The ancient vain heaven blood tribulation had arrived. The so-called heaven blood meant that the entire essence of the 3 ancient clans, spiritual energy, vitality, and soul, would merge into one drop of blood. This drop of blood represented everything for the one undergoing the tribulation. With this blood, one could tear open the heavens, summon the bloodline of the ancient kingdom, and gain the approval of the ancient ancestor from the unseen realm. If the ancient ancestor acknowledged them, no matter where they were in the universe, the ancient ancestor would send them an identical drop of blood. This drop of blood would merge with the blood of the one undergoing the tribulation, which contained all their essence and soul, and the reborn body would possess the true bloodline of the 3 ancients. This bloodline was equal to that of the Immortal Clan. The difficulty of this tribulation was not in the pain of merging essence and spirit into the first drop of blood, but in gaining the recognition of the ancient ancestor. This recognition was not something everyone could attain. Moreover, even if one was recognized, the blood sent by the ancient ancestor varied in quantity. The ordinary recognition granted only a single drop, but a higher level of recognition could result in 2 drops. Tao ancient Yimo, when he underwent this tribulation, received 3 drops of blood. Throughout history, the highest number of drops received before Yimo was 8, and the person who achieved this was none other than the grand heavenly venerable Xian Luo of the ancient kingdom, one of the 9 sons of the ancient kingdom on the immortal firmament continent. He was the peerless expert who once competed with another grand heavenly venerable from the Sun Tao for the primordial divine realm fragments outside the 7 Paths sect. Sitting on the altar, Wang Lin remained silent for a long time before closing his eyes. The Tao ancient aura suddenly contracted back into his body and began to condense into a drop of blood as he took the first step of the third decay's first tribulation. His cross-legged form now displayed an overlapping ethereal shadow. Gradually, another Wang Lin, his clone, emerged from his body, a cultivator's clone. As the clone left, the true body of Wang Lin sitting cross-legged was now entirely made of the ancient clan. He saw his left eye instantly melt. Waves of intense pain surged through him. Even Wang Lin gritted his teeth from the agony. As his left eye melted, it felt as though part of his body was being drained. From within his left eye, a drop of fresh blood slowly flew out. This drop of blood was about the size of a fingernail and floated before Wang Lin. Inside it, a miniature version of Wang Lin, resembling him exactly, sat cross-legged, motionless within the blood. With my ancient demon body, drawing the essence and spirit of the demon, I will merge 1 drop of blood and release it. Wang Lin's voice was calm, starkly contrasting with the pain he was enduring. As the words left his mouth, he formed a hand seal with his right hand and pressed it forcefully onto his body. Immediately, a cracking sound echoed from his right eye. In the blink of an eye, Wang Lin's entire right eye collapsed. This collapse was not just destruction, but a complete disintegration, and in that moment, his body rapidly withered, resembling a skeleton. As the eye shattered, a drop of black blood, carrying a ferocious demonic aura, shot out with a howl, floating beside the blood of the ancient demon. Inside that blood, a smaller version of the ancient demon Wang Lin sat cross-legged. Using my ancient god body, melting everything, condensing a drop of ancient god blood. Wang Lin's vision blurred, and he could no longer see anything around him. This pain, though seemingly simple to describe, was far beyond what Wang Lin could bear. Yet he persevered. He had to survive this ancient, vain heaven blood tribulation. His body melted at a visible rate. First, his legs and arms, until his entire body. Eventually, under the mist of blood that scattered from his body, he disappeared completely, turning into the mist. The mist swirled, rapidly condensing. After half an incense stick's worth of time, it formed a drop of ancient god blood. At this moment, on the altar, from the perspective of Wang Lin's avatar, his true body had completely vanished. What remained were 3 drops of blood. The 3 drops of blood floated in the shape of the word Ren, with 3 figures of Wang Lin sitting cross-legged within them. In that instant, all 3 figures simultaneously opened their eyes. In a flash, the 3 drops of blood rapidly fused together, silently merging into one. This single drop of blood contained the essence of the ancient god, ancient demon, and ancient demon king. It was everything that was Wang Lin. Unlike the golden blood of the immortal clan, this blood was not golden but emitted a dark glow, flickering and casting a hazy light around it. The moment the 3 drops of blood fused, a desolate aura spread from the blood, carrying the weight of time and the defiance of the ancient clan. It soared toward the heavens, spreading toward the pinnacle of the endless starry sky. This aura, within the inner and outer realms and the entire cave mansion realm, would go unnoticed by any cultivator, because it belonged to the ancient clan, not the cultivators. This aura was meant to summon the ancient ancestor. As it spread, anyone with ancient clan bloodline within the cave mansion realm trembled in their hearts, feeling a power that seemed to emanate from their very blood. Within the realm, the Cloud Sea ancient demon, who had survived countless battles, now revealed a stunned look in his eyes. He stared blankly into the distance, feeling the aura. Under its influence, he felt a faint urge to worship. In the collapsed Donglin star of Luo Tian, a woman sat cross-legged in the crackless void. She, too, was an ancient god. Her eyes suddenly snapped open, her gaze filled with terror. She froze for a moment, her body uncontrollably trembling. Ancient vein heaven blood, she whispered. Outside the realm, within the ancient star of antiquity, in the ancient burial ground, Tua's son, who had chosen to remain in the Great Hall and inherit the memory of 2C, still sat there, his eyes closed. He had absorbed Wang Lin's memories of 2C, and over the years, he may have remained Tua's, or perhaps he had become the awakened 2C. But at this moment, his eyes suddenly snapped open, his pupils shrinking. In the immortal firmament continent, the immortal clan resided in the east and south, while the ancient kingdom was in the west and north. The continent was so vast that many cultivators or citizens of the ancient clan had never left their regions in their lifetime. At this moment, in the northern part of the immortal firmament continent, there was a massive floating city in the sky. This city was so large it could match the size of the cave mansion realm, and from afar, its boundaries couldn't even be seen. Beneath this city lay an eternal darkness, where the sun never shone. This was the prison of immortals of the ancient kingdom. The ancient city suppressed many cultivators with immortal clan bloodlines, who had been imprisoned within the prison of immortals. At the center of this city stood a colossal statue, so grand it seemed to support the heavens of the immortal firmament continent. Even from a great distance, one could see this towering statue. The statue depicted a middle-aged man with a dignified appearance, his head lowered as if gazing at the earth, his eyes filled with a contemptuous gaze toward everything. In his eyes, what was the sky? What was the earth? What could an immortal be counted as? He spread his arms wide, as if controlling the entire immortal firmament continent. That enormous palm seemed to harbor the power to annihilate the continent itself. On his left hand, a young man stood. The young man had black hair and wore a dark robe, his hair billowing in the wind. He gazed at the statue before him, a look of reverence in his eyes. The light on the statue's brow had subtly begun to shine a few days ago, a red glow that seemed as if blood itself were being condensed into a shape. It was this extraordinary scene that kept the young man, with black hair, standing there, unblinking. Behind him, thousands of figures floated in the sky, and further still, there were tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of figures also suspended in the air. Despite the vast number of people, there was not a sound to be heard. Everyone's gaze was locked onto the dark-robed young man and the statue. Has the time come? After a long silence, The young man in the black robe seemed to mumble to himself, speaking slowly. At that moment, suddenly, 9 massive giants, each about 10,000 feet tall, stepped through the void, their footsteps thundering. Behind them, a man in an imperial robe, almost identical in appearance to the figure in the statue, walked with his hands clasped behind his back, taking slow, measured steps. Behind this man were 9 more giants, as if attending to him, gradually approaching. His appearance caused the nearly 1 million cultivators of the ancient nation to simultaneously bow in respect. Greetings, ancient emperor. Only the young man in the dark robe, standing to the left of the statue, did not bow, his eyes calmly fixed on the statue. The robed man paid no mind to this, and, amidst the homage of the ancient nation cultivators, floated over to the young man in black. Smiling, he cupped his fists in a gesture of respect, his expression still carrying an air of dignity, and spoke. Yi Su, I greet you, Grand Heavenly Venerable Xian Luo. The young man with black hair was, in fact, one of the 9 sons, Xian Luo, of the ancient nation. The time is nearly upon us. You're a bit late, the young man slowly spoke. I hope the Grand Heavenly Venerable can forgive me. Both the Extreme Emperor and the Primordial Emperor have shown great interest in our affairs here. They had previously communicated with me through divine sense to inquire. The middle-aged man in the imperial robe said with a wry smile, nodding his head. The black-haired young man snorted coldly. The 3 great emperors of the path, as the imperial venerable of the Tao ancient lineage, some matters need not concern them. Today's events are significant to my Tao ancient lineage. Of course, they will take note, he said dismissively. Uncle is right. The middle-aged man changed his form of address. Upon hearing himself referred to as uncle, the black-haired young man's expression softened slightly. Uncle, this matter is rather strange. What are the odds of success? The robed man, still staring at the ancestor statue that resembled him, asked softly. The successor of Yi Mo is an accident. I don't know everything about him. I can only sense him through the bloodline. As to whether he can earn the approval of the ancient ancestor, I am uncertain. The young man with black hair paused, then continued. He is Yi Mo's successor? How? How is that possible? The robed man was taken aback, clearly hearing this for the first time. Yi Mo, back in the day. He did not finish his sentence before the black-haired young man interrupted. 7 days ago, the ancient ancestor's statue emitted the skyblood radiance. While this is not unusual, the skyblood glow continued to condense for 7 days without fully forming. This is an extremely rare occurrence. Even I, back then, only saw the glow condense for 9 days. I searched carefully among all the Tao ancient clan members, but I couldn't find anything that could explain the ancient ancestor's skyblood radiance. Then, using the divination art, I discovered the root of it. It turns out it was the successor of Yi Mo. If he succeeds, if he can make it to the immortal firmament continent, I will consider accepting him as my disciple, my only disciple. Someone who could rise from the cave abode realm and come this far. If he can make it out, then such a person will surely become a powerhouse of my Tao ancient lineage. After my reincarnation, he can come guard the Tao ancient lineage. I hope he can succeed. The black-haired youth gazed at the statue, his voice filled with contemplation. Time passed slowly, the 8th day, the 9th day, until the 13th day. Throughout these days, the Tao ancient clan members remained silent, watching the blood glow on the statue's brow grow more intense, their eyes beginning to show signs of anticipation. On the 13th day, at dusk, a sudden change occurred. The blood glow on the statue's brow seemed to reach its limit, casting light over half the sky, enveloping everything in a blood-red hue. In the tense silence, a drop of blood slowly began to form from the statue's brow. After a long while, no second drop appeared. Just one drop. The robed man's eyes flickered with a trace of disdain. It wasn't just him. Around them, nearly all the clan members of the ancient nation wore expressions of disappointment. They had waited 13 days, expecting to witness a miracle, but all they got was a single drop. But just at that moment, a series of shocked exclamations echoed out, as the second drop of blood flew out from the statue's brow. Immediately after, the third and fourth drops of blood followed, screaming through the air. 4 drops. 4 drops, unbelievable. Although the majority of the people from the ancient nation undergoing the first tribulation of the three decays only received a single drop, there were still some who managed to acquire more than one drop. Anyone from the Dao ancient lineage, aside from Yimo, would typically receive 2 drops of ancient vein heaven blood. Moreover, the robed emperor himself had once obtained 6 drops of blood from the ancient ancestor. He was hailed as the strongest in the Dao ancient lineage, second only to Xian Luo. Because of this, he became the Dao Ancient Imperial Venerable, a position so high that it earned him the admiration of countless people. However, despite his accomplishments, he was never taken as a disciple by Xian Luo, a matter that he had always resented but dared not voice. Now, hearing that the Grand Heavenly Venerable Xian Luo intended to accept Yimo's successor as a disciple, he felt a deep, cold bitterness within, though his face revealed nothing. 4 drops of blood. This is something that hasn't happened in a long time, he mused. But surely, 4 drops are the limit, right? Look at the ancient ancestor statue. The light is dimming somewhat. 13 days, and only 4 drops? That's really not much. Around them, the discussions buzzed. The Dao ancient lineage members' eyes were all focused on the ancient ancestor statue's brow. As they watched, the crimson glow slowly faded, and the once blinding red light that illuminated much of the sky gradually dimmed until only a faint glimmer remained at the statue's brow. At that moment, nearly 1 million Dao ancient lineage members knew everything had come to an end. The robed emperor remained calm, but inwardly, he sneered. Only 4 drops of blood? How can that be enough to protect the Dao ancient lineage, as my clan uncle claimed? This whole matter seems like much ado about nothing. Even if my clan uncle does want to accept a disciple, there are still a few among our Dao ancient lineage who have received 4 drops of blood. As for me, even though I once obtained 6 drops, I still wasn't taken into his regard. If he still decides to accept this Yimo's successor, I will be the first to object. The robed emperor's expression revealed no trace of his inner thoughts, only a look of regret as he shook his head and spoke softly to the black-haired young man, the Grand Heavenly Venerable Xian Luo. My clan uncle, 4 drops are already quite a lot. This Yimo successor can be considered a carriage for our Dao ancient lineage. Grand Heavenly Venerable Xian Luo's expression remained indifferent, as if he hadn't heard the robed emperor's words. His gaze remained fixed on the statue's brow, watching the red glow weaken further, until it seemed almost gone. He continued to watch as the 4 drops of blood that had previously gathered shot into the sky, sparkling as they vanished into the distant void, disappearing from view. Let's wait a bit longer. After a long silence, the black-haired youth finally spoke. The robed emperor nodded in agreement, though his heart was filled with disdain. Aside from my clan uncle, no one in the Dao ancient lineage possesses my talents. Yimo won't do, and neither will his successor. As time passed on the immortal firmament continent, within the cave mansion realm's inner cloud sea rift, in that strange space, on the altar, Wang Lin's clone sat cross-legged at the edge of the altar. His eyes emitted a peculiar glow as he gazed at the center of the altar, where the drop of blood from his true body hovered. The blood floated there, still and unmoving. Just then, the strange space began to reverberate, and waves of energy appeared out of nowhere, rippling across the starry sky above. A vast, ancient aura emanated from these waves. This aura far surpassed anything in the cave mansion realm, even greater than any pressure the previous Grand Heavenly Venerable could exert. Despite its terrifying power, the aura went unnoticed by anyone but Wang Lin. Above the altar, amidst the ripples, a massive vortex slowly appeared. As it spun, a thunderous roar sounded, and soon, a flood of blood light erupted from the vortex, enveloping the entire altar. A mighty force pushed Wang Lin's clone back hundreds of feet, until he was forced to leave the altar. This force made Wang Lin's spirit tremble. It exceeded the power of heaven and earth, surpassing any pressure he had ever encountered in his life. Let alone him. Even the 7 colors would be forcibly driven out of this altar. Within his spiritual senses, Wang Lin clearly felt the drop of blood from his true body burning with intense light, its blood light now blending with that of the vortex. As the blood light from the vortex spread, in an instant, another drop of blood shot out, heading straight for the drop of blood from Wang Lin's true body. In the blink of an eye, the two drops merged rapidly, gradually coming together as one. In that instant, Wang Lin's clone staggered backward and immediately sat cross-legged. His mind was overwhelmed with intense pain, a torment so severe that it prevented him from fully controlling the clone. Instead, he had to immerse himself completely in the intentions of his true self. As he sat down, his mind suddenly exploded with a loud bang, his consciousness dissipating from the clone and fully merging with the blood within. An indescribable agony reverberated through his entire awareness. Despite having no physical form, he still felt the burning pain, and the blood that fused together seemed to boil, writhing rapidly. At that moment, a second drop of blood flew out from the vortex. In an instant, it merged with the blood of Wang Lin's true self. The impact of this caused an immense roar within Wang Lin's consciousness, amplifying the pain 100-fold. But he couldn't scream. It was something he could only endure. Shortly after, the third drop of ancient ancestor's blood flickered from the vortex, merging once more. Upon this union, the blood of Wang Lin's true self erupted, expanding over a 3-zhang radius. Within this space, a naked figure took shape, its phantom silhouette solidifying. It was Wang Lin, with white hair, his body covered in intricate runic marks, appearing incredibly eerie. His eyes were tightly shut, and he emitted muffled groans of agony. His form slowly began to solidify in that illusion. The fourth drop of blood shot out at that very moment. The moment it left the vortex, the bloodlight flooded the endless starry sky, a dazzling red glow sweeping through the heavens. It howled as it struck directly at Wang Lin's brow. With this strike, Wang Lin's entire body shook. His eyes snapped open, revealing red pupils. His body trembled violently as immense power surged within him, causing his body to crack loudly. After fusing the 4 drops of ancient ancestor blood, a bloodline was born within him. This was the bloodline of the ancients, signaling that from this moment on, Wang Lin had become a true descendant of the ancient ancestor. He was now a legitimate member of the ancient kingdom. With the 4th drop's departure, the vortex above gradually stopped spinning, showing signs of dissipating. Once it vanished, the ancient Vein Heaven blood ritual would be over. Although Wang Lin had endured, he could only obtain 4 drops of blood, just one more than Yimo. This was already a great achievement for him, considering he was inheriting from Yimo. The 4 drops were already more than Yimo had received in his time. Achieving this was almost the limit for Wang Lin. After all, he wasn't a genius. He hadn't been born on the immortal firmament continent. He was still just a weak being from the cave mansion realm. He couldn't compare to the robed emperor, who had obtained 6 drops of blood and was a member of the Dao ancient royal family. How could Wang Lin compete with such a prodigy? He was even less comparable to Grand Heavenly Venerable Xian Luo, one of the 9 sons, a figure above countless others, in immortal existence. This being had acquired 8 drops of ancient ancestors' blood, something Wang Lin could never match. The only things Wang Lin had to offer were his unwavering determination, his unyielding character, and his unwillingness to be controlled by others. Through countless life and death struggles, he had risen from a weak mortal to this point. Looking back, the hardships he'd endured were enough to shock anyone. While Wang Lin had fought for every bit of his fate, the robed emperor and many cultivators of the ancient kingdom were leisurely cultivating, protected by powerful heavenly venerables, rarely facing such dangers. At the very moment Wang Lin was crying to the heavens, holding Li Muin's corpse in his arms, struggling desperately to bring her back to life, the robed emperor of the immortal firmament continent was leisurely playing with strange treasures sent by his people, selecting his favorite among the many women brought to him to become one of his consorts. 4 drops of blood. Is this the limit of my Wang Lin? The bloodline power within him gathered. He gazed at the dissipating vortex above, unsatisfied. Although he did not know what had happened on the immortal firmament continent, because of him, his nature was clear. He was never content. He wanted more blood. He wanted his bloodline power to be even stronger, not for anything else, but because of that unyielding, rebellious spirit within his heart. If you acknowledge my ancient clan's bloodline, then giving me only 4 drops of blood is not enough. Wang Lin's eyes glinted with cold light, and with a single leap, he shot toward the vortex that was about to dissipate. He was unlike any of the Tao ancient royal family of the immortal firmament continent. He had been born in the cave mansion realm. In his heart, he had never respected the ancients. He did not revere these ethereal beings. He only trusted his own strength. On the immortal firmament continent, even the grand heavenly venerable Xian Luo could not compare to him. The grand heavenly venerable still held deep respect for this ancestor that existed in the unseen world. But Wang Lin was different. He was the first of the Tao ancient lineage to not only survive the ancient vain heaven blood tribulation, but to also press forward, dissatisfied with just obtaining the blood and charging directly toward the dissipating vortex. They almost fanatically revered the ancient ancestor. He was the heavens for the cultivators of the ancient kingdom. Even the most arrogant would never dare show disrespect to the ancient ancestor, for it was an idea instilled in them from birth. Everyone around them, without exception, held this belief. Even the grand heavenly venerable Xian Luo did so, and that speaks volumes. But Wang Lin was different. He took that step forward. His figure shot into the air like a long rainbow, whistling through the air and heading straight for the vortex, which was about to fade. His figure radiated an unyielding, boundless dominance and an aura of unrelenting defiance. If he hadn't earned the recognition of the ancient vein, it might have been different. But since he had, 4 drops of fresh blood were simply not enough. In fact, to him, this entire matter was not as simple as it seemed. The so-called recognition was, in truth, the acknowledgement of one becoming a descendant, of inheriting that bloodline. But Wang Lin did not need that bloodline. In fact, if he wanted, he could obtain the immortal bloodline from the madman. This bloodline was equal to the ancient bloodline. That was precisely why Wang Lin charged toward the vortex. If the so-called ancient ancestor did not give him more bloodline, then he would force out the 4 drops of blood within him, abandon his ancient clan identity, and join the immortal clan, gaining the immortal indestructible body and becoming an immortal. You recognize me, but I have yet to recognize you. If you want me to accept this bloodline, you must offer me more blood and fortune. Wang Lin spoke without fear of the unseen ancient ancestor, daring to negotiate terms. The bloodline that earns my recognition will never be abandoned by me. But you think 4 drops of blood will make me accept it? That's too cheap. Wang Lin roared as he plunged into the vortex. His roar echoed, rumbling deep within the vortex, creating a chain of resounding echoes that reverberated endlessly. The moment Wang Lin's body entered the vortex, a wave of emotionless, almost divine-like aura surged from within, engulfing him instantly, pushing him back, and preventing him from entering. He was repelled from the vortex's edge. This divine-like aura exuded an ancient, lifeless feeling, as though it were dead and emotionless. Suspended in this aura, Wang Lin coldly stared ahead at the vortex. His gaze flickered, and with a raised right hand, he touched his forehead. A milky white light glimmered at his fingertip. With a wave of his hand, the surrounding void twisted, forming illusory images. Within those images was a young man dressed in black, a cultivator at the core formation stage. The place he was at was the ancient god ruins on the Vermilion Bird Star. The scene changed. The young man in black went through various trials in the ancient god ruins and eventually received the memory inheritance of 2C. You can see this. This was the first time I obtained the ancient god inheritance. Wang Lin's voice was slow. He flicked his hand, and the surrounding illusions shifted, showing all the scenes of his life where he had received the ancient god inheritance. Finally, the scene shifted to the ancient Tao tomb within the primordial stars. These were Wang Lin's memories, now materialized before him. If you are truly spiritually aware, then consider how much blood I need to accept your bloodline. Wang Lin's voice was cold. After he finished speaking, the divine-like aura surrounding his body suddenly withdrew, returning to the vortex. It seemed as though the vortex had fallen into a long silence. Then, a rumbling sound emerged again. The vortex, which had been fading, began to spin again, slowly condensing. As it spun, blood light began to spread from within. In the floating city of the Tao ancient lineage on the immortal firmament continent, where nearly 1 million Tao ancient clan members waited, and the robed emperor, whose patience was running thin but had no way to express it. Suddenly, the blood light that had once been faint in the forehead of the sky-supporting statue exploded into a dazzling red light. In an instant, the red light engulfed the surroundings, illuminating the heavens and earth, bathing everything in a sea of blood-colored radiance. This sudden change immediately caused waves of exclamations. This is impossible. There's bloodlight again. Could it be that the fifth drop of blood is about to condense? Throughout history, the ancient vein heaven blood has always ended with a single offering. Never such a change, blood light appearing again. For the first time, the robed emperor's expression changed. He stared at the statue's forehead, eyes filled with shock. How can this be? It was supposed to be ending soon, but this. Only the black-haired youth, Grand Heavenly Venerable Xianluo, smiled slightly. His eyes glowed with an unusual light as he looked at the statue's forehead, without speaking a word. Amidst the astonished gazes of nearly 1,000,000 Dao Gu clan members surrounding him, a blood-red glow suddenly gathered at the statue's forehead. With a sharp whistle, the fifth drop of blood shot out. The appearance of this fifth drop of blood confirmed everyone's earlier guesses, instantly creating a massive uproar. The scene left everyone around in awe. All eyes were fixed on the statue, and after a long moment, still only the fifth drop of blood had appeared. The robed emperor, seeing this, breathed a small sigh of relief. 5 drops. So what if there are 5 drops? I once obtained 6 drops and became the Dao Ancient Imperial Venerable. I refuse to believe he can. The emperor's eyes sparkled, but just as his thoughts began, they were shattered by the next shocking scene, causing his body to tremble in shock. He saw the blood glow on the statue's forehead surge again. This time, the 6th drop of blood shot out. 6 drops of blood. 6 drops. Just like the Imperial Venerable of old. This is a great blessing for our Dao Gu clan. No, it's 7 drops. As the blood light intensified, amid the clamor, the 7th drop of blood shot out, causing the robed emperor's face to turn pale with shock. Even more astonishing, to the point that the black-haired youth, Grand Heavenly Venerable Xianluo, laughed out loud, was the appearance of the 8th drop of blood right after the 7th. 8 drops of blood. Even Grand Heavenly Venerable Xianluo had only received 8 drops at this stage back in the day. This series of events left the onlookers speechless, staring at the statue in disbelief. The emperor licked his lips subconsciously, a barely perceptible cold glint flashing in his eyes. The inheritor of Yimo. How could he possibly gain such recognition from the ancient ancestor? Granted 8 drops of blood? I am the true descendant of the ancient ancestor. I am of the imperial bloodline. I am the ancient prodigy, second only to my clan uncle. The emperor took a deep breath, managing to suppress the jealousy that surged within him. He could not allow Xianluo to see through him. Replacing the dark thoughts with a smile, the emperor cupped his fists and turned to the black-haired youth, saying, "Congratulations, clan uncle. It seems this child will surely become your only disciple in the future. Perhaps even surpass you and become the new Grand Heavenly Venerable of our Dao Gu clan." These words, seemingly kind, were actually laced with hidden malice. However, with the emperor's flawless expression, it was difficult to detect any falsehoods, as his joy seemed entirely genuine, making it hard for anyone to spot his true intentions. The black-haired youth listened calmly, but as he turned, he gave the emperor a look full of meaning. That gaze made the emperor's heart skip a beat. Just as he was about to speak, an uproar once again echoed around him. His heart sank, and without thinking, he snapped his head back to the statue. His face immediately turned pale. The 9th drop of blood, amid the earth-shattering roar, slowly began to form. As the 9th drop appeared, Grand Heavenly Venerable Xianluo's eyes gleamed brightly, his joy clear for everyone to see. But it wasn't over. After the 9th drop, the blood glow surged once more, and under the suffocating tension, signs appeared that the 10th drop of blood would soon emerge. The 10th drop. Unbelievable. The 10th drop. 10 drops of blood from the ancient ancestor. This is unprecedented. 10 drops. Doesn't this mean this person is the true Dao Ancient Imperial Venerable? Even the imperial family has never received 10 drops. Who is this person? Could he become the future Imperial Venerable of our Daogu clan. The emperor's face turned ashen, barely able to control the overwhelming jealousy that flooded his heart. His eyes were fixed on the statue. The blood glow at the statue's forehead rapidly condensed, as if it were absorbing all the blood light around it. And eventually, it formed a drop of blood. But this blood wasn't red, it was purple. The purple blood caused the emperor to stagger back in shock, his face pale as he gaped in disbelief. Ancient ancestor's soul blood. This is soul blood. It's impossible, it can't be. The black-haired youth, grand heavenly venerable Xianluo, was visibly moved for the first time. His gaze was locked on the purple blood, a look of shock in his eyes as he stared at it. Even when the 9th drop had appeared, he hadn't been this astonished. But now, the sight of the purple blood shook him deeply. Ancient ancestor, you've sent out a drop of soul blood. Could it be that there's some deeper meaning behind this? Soul blood, this is soul blood. In all of history, only 9 drops of soul blood have appeared. Every 3 drops created a branch of the Dao ancient lineage. 9 drops of soul blood created the 3 ancient branches. The young man with black hair took a deep breath. He raised his right hand and pointed to the sky. Instantly, the world changed its hue. A massive red sun suddenly appeared out of nowhere, enveloping everything around, sealing the air in such a way that no one outside could detect what was happening. With the power of my profound sun, I seal this place. All of you, descendants of the Dao ancient lineage, are forbidden from revealing a word of this matter. Anyone who dares to violate this command, no matter their status, shall die. Grand Heavenly Venerable Xianluo spoke slowly, casting a meaningful glance at the robed emperor behind him. Did you hear that? Yes. The robed emperor lowered his head and spoke quickly, though the jealousy in his heart had reached a breaking point. I need to visit the land of the immortal clan to bring this child back, the young man with black hair murmured, gazing towards the distant region of the immortal clan on the immortal firmament continent.